Hello and welcome to this video on installing and configuring IntelliConnect, IntelliConnect Plus and IntelliNode. Note that the Connect specific processes shown in this video can also be applied to IntelliConnect Plus. Therefore, any references to IntelliConnect in this video also apply to IntelliConnect Plus. This video is split into topics. This is a list of the topics and the times in which they start for this video. If the topic which you are interested in is later in the video, you can skip forward to that time to view that particular topic. Let's first run through a quick overview of the Connect system. IntelliConnect is a web-based investigation and e-discovery platform. It is ideally suited for the use by enterprise, law enforcement and regulatory agencies in civil, criminal and policy-related investigations. The Connect system comprises of three main components. The Connect server is the main part of Connect. This is where the administrator shares cases, sets up users, configures roles and permissions, etc. The Connect server can be configured to use SSL, and it can also be configured to work with an LDAP provider, including Active Directory. Connect allows you to share any cases that have been made with IntelliNode or which have been made with our IntelliDesktop products. The shared case can then be reviewed by one or more reviewers using any of the supported web browsers. The indexing system is a physically separate computer to the Connect server. This system will require sufficient resources for processing, and it should comply with the minimum specifications that we recommend. The specifications for all of our products can be seen at this link. The indexing system runs IntelliNode, which is the processing component for the overall Connect system. You can have more than one node running at any one time, but all nodes need to be on their own separate systems. Cases are created and indexing processes are configured by the Connect interface. Once a processing task is started, the Connect system sends instructions to the node processing system, and that is where the processing or indexing takes place. The reviewer system is basically any computer which has a supported web browser. The case administrator provides the user with the logon credentials and a link to the shared case on the Connect server. Before we get into the installation and configuration processes, we first need to talk about some prerequisites that need to be considered. It is recommended that you read our documentation on selecting a computer to host your Intella and Connect products. This information is available from the link shown. This document talks about the minimum hardware and software specifications for the systems to be used for Connect and Node. It is important to note that performance issues can arise from running Connect or Node on a lower spec system than what we recommend in this document. Also, support can be affected if you do not run our products on at least the minimum hardware and software specifications. We do not recommend running Connect and data processing such as Node or IntelliDesktop on the same system. These review and processing roles should be on separate systems. We have several other documents related to getting started with Connect and Node, the installation and configuration process, and troubleshooting. These documents include the user and administrator manuals, our forum site, the support knowledge base, and helpful videos. It is recommended that you also review these documents to familiarize yourself with IntelliConnect before you install it. This video demonstrates installing Connect or Node either as an application or by installing the product so it runs as a Windows service. Note that when Connect or Node is installed as an application, it must be started with the same user account logged onto the system which was originally used during the installation process. For example, if I install Connect while logged into the system as Bob, I must be logged into the system as Bob to run Connect. When Connect or Node are installed to run as a service, the product can be started automatically when the computer system is started. Therefore, there is no need to log into the system for Connect to run. In this video, we make mention of two administrators. The first is the IntelliAdmin, which is the person who will conduct the installation, set up and manage users, and manage cases in Connect. The second is your Network Administrator. They will be crucial in the setup of Connect and Node. He or she will have the experience and the ability to configure web services on the server, configure routing, open ports on firewalls, set up certificates, configure LDAP, and set up SSL, etc. These tasks need to be undertaken by an experienced network administrator. This is an area where we unfortunately cannot provide support or assistance. We cannot stress enough that it is vital for an experienced network administrator to be engaged to assist with the implementation of Connect and Node from the beginning. To install Connect and Node, you must be logged on to the system with the administrator account or with an account which has full administrator rights to the system. Make sure the ports that you use for Connect, Node and the reviewer systems are available. Any routing requirements must be in place before you start the implementation process. Again, the network administrator can help you with this. The installation file for Connect and Node is the same file. You'll have an option to select which product you want to install when you run the installer. The installer can be downloaded from the Vound support portal shown at the link below. Before we install Connect or Node, let's first discuss two ways to install Connect and Node. The first option is to install Connect or Node as an application. This means that to run Connect or Node, the same user who is logged onto the system during the install process has to be logged on to run Connect or Node. Also, Connect or Node has to be run from either the desktop icon or the executable file in the installation folder. The second option is to install Connect or Node as a service. This means that Connect or Node can be started automatically when the system is started. This is useful for when used in conjunction with the automatic sharing of cases feature. It allows the server to be started and cases to be shared ready to go with very little user input. Note that when Connect or Node is installed as a service, it is still installed with a user account. This is necessary as Connect and Node still need to be run in the context of a particular Windows user. These credentials need to be provided in the installation wizard, but more importantly, we must ensure that the user account has the right to log on as a service before we install Connect or Node. If you are installing Connect or Node on a workstation or member server, you can do this by either configuring the local security policy or by creating and configuring a group policy object for that host. If you are installing Connect or Node on a domain controller, you can either configure the domain controller security policy or create and configure a group policy object. The steps to configure the domain controller security policy are shown in the Connect Administrator Manual. In this example, we'll configure the local security policy. The setting we need to change is available in the Local Security Policy Editor. Open the Administrator Tools and select the Local Security Policy option. Open the Local Policies folder, then open the User Rights Assignment folder. Scroll down to the Log On as a Service policy and double-click it to edit the policy. Add the user or the group for the account that will be doing the installation. Once we have configured the Log On as a Service setting, we can install Connect or Node. The installer file and installation steps for Connect and Node are very much the same. The only difference is that you will install each product to a different system and you'll choose which products to install. In this video, we will install Connect as a service, but I'll point out the other options as we go through the installation process. Once you have downloaded the installer, on the Connect server, double-click the executable file to start the installation process. On the Welcome window, click the Next button. Read through the license agreement, then click on the I agree button to accept the license agreement and continue with the installation process. This window gives the option to choose the product which you want to install. Since we are installing Connect, I'll check the option for Install IntelliConnect. Click on Next to continue. This screen allows you to path to where you want Connect to be installed. Note that Connect or No cannot be installed into the installation folder of an earlier version. For this tutorial, I'll use the default location, however I will change it slightly. I will add the date format to the end of the folder name. Doing this makes it easier to see which versions you have installed on the system and ensures that they are installed into separate folders. Click Next to continue. This screen allows the user to install Connect as a service. In this example, we'll select this option. Note that if you want to install Connect as a standalone application, you can deselect this option. Remember that when installing Connect as a standalone application, Connect must be started by the desktop icon and there will be no way to start Connect automatically as a service when the system is started. Click Next to continue. On the screen you can set the Start menu folder. I normally copy in what I use for the installation folder name here. This reduces confusion if you install several upgrades of Connect on the same system. Click Install to start the installation process. Once Connect has been installed, click on the Finish button. Note that as a personal preference, I also like to add the revision number or date to the Connect icon on the desktop. Again, this helps to identify which version I'm running. In this example, we have installed Connect. Node can be installed either as a service or as an application by following the same steps. When the system is restarted, Connect will be running in the background. If you have not installed Connect as a service, then you will need to double-click on the Connect icon on the desktop to start Connect. When Connect is started this way manually, a Connect icon is displayed in the taskbar indicating that Connect is running. When Connect is started as a service, you do not see this icon in the taskbar. Note that if Connect is configured to run as a service, it is important that you do not try to run Connect manually from the executable file. If Connect is already running, then you try to start a second instance of Connect on the same system, you will likely run into some licensing issues or other errors. You will notice that when Connect is started as a service, Connect runs in the background automatically. This is different to having to run an application from an icon like we see with IntelliDesktop. If Connect was installed to run as a service, there will be no Connect icon in the taskbar. Open a web browser and type http:// then the IP address of the Connect server, followed by the port number. There is an example below. You can also use localhost by typing this in the address bar. In either case, Connect will present a logon screen. The default username and password for a new installation is admin and admin, all in lowercase. Use these credentials to log onto the admin dashboard. Note that the password can be changed once you have logged in. The Connect dashboard is what the Connect administrator sees when logged in. It is the interface which the administrator uses to create and share cases, to create users, to create roles and assign permissions to those roles, and to set other configuration settings related to the Connect system. We are currently in the Cases tab. Here we can create a case, add an existing case, and share cases. We will have a look at these functions shortly, but for now we'll briefly go over the other tabs shown at the top right of the screen. The Servers tab is designed to allow the administrator to configure the Connect system. The Grid tab allows other Connect servers to be added to the grid. This allows the reviewer a single point of access to multiple instances of Connect servers. For example, cases may be located on several servers at different geographic locations. From a user's perspective, the grid allows the user to connect to their case seamlessly without having to select a specific server. Note that LDAP needs to be implemented to use the grid feature. The Nodes tab allows the administrator to set up one or more processing nodes. The Shared File System tab is where the administrator configures the shared folder locations which the Connect server and the Node server systems use. Note that you must ensure that the Node and Connect systems have access and permissions to the same file system. The Users tab allows the administrator to create and manage user accounts, along with other settings such as roles and permissions. The User Accounts tab is where the administrator creates and removes user accounts. Note that you can see which cases a specific user has access to by selecting the user account and clicking on this button. The Roles and Permissions tab is where the administrator creates roles, then assigns permissions to those roles. The Server and Case Administration tab is where the administrator can set global authorizations. For example, you can add other users to be an administrator of the Connect server. The System tab displays notifications about Connect in different categories. The first category addresses critical notifications. These are notifications requiring attention, such as the default password has not been changed or you have not set up HTTPS. The second category is to do with warning notifications. These include warnings such as Entella not being able to find native applications like Microsoft Word or Adobe Acrobat, which are required for native review. The last category is to update the user with important information. An example is that the user is notified that Internet Explorer 9 and 10 browsers are at the end of support. The Settings tab allows the administrator to make configuration changes to a number of components in Connect. Over the last few years, many more settings have been added to this tab. Note that older Connect videos will not show these options. Along with other settings, the General tab allows the user to configure the password for the administrator account in Connect. It also allows the user to set custom content for the login page for the users who review cases. This is useful if you want to link to a particular company policy on the login page. The SSL and LDAP tabs allow the user to configure these services. We have provided wizards to help make the setup of these services easier. Note that certificates will need to be created for these services. These will need to be created by your network administrator. The Connect Administrator Manual has more information on SSL and LDAP. The ABI tab allows the user to configure Connect to integrate directly with ABI Recognition Server or ABI Fine Reader Server. The geolocation settings can be configured in the Geolocation tab. For example, this is where the user can configure geolocation to work with a tile server. Lastly, if you are indexing Lotus Notes data, you will need to install IBM Notes. If you are having issues with indexing the Notes data, you will need to make sure that the Notes settings are validated in the IBM Notes tab. Note that some corporate versions of Lotus Notes do not work with Entella or Connect. You should source a generic copy of the Notes installer and install that version on the system. Before we start going through how Connect is used, let's configure some of the common settings on the Connect system. The first task that you may want to do is to change the password for the administrator account on the Connect server. This is done in the Settings tab. Simply type the current password, which is admin for a new installation, then type a new password for the administrator's account in this field. Once done, retype the new password in this field. Click on the Change Password button to commit the password changes. Note that you should consult and adhere to your company's policy regarding password complexity and other security settings. The second task is to add some user accounts to Connect. These are accounts for the people or users who will be accessing shared cases. There are two ways to add accounts to Connect. The first is to configure LDAP so that Connect can access accounts from a directory service. Note that configuring LDAP in Connect will not be covered in this video. You can get more information regarding the configuration of LDAP from the Connect Administration Manual. The second way to add an account to Connect is to use the User Accounts tab, which is located under the Users tab. Click on the Add button to create a new user account. For this example, I will use Sam for the username. I enter a password for the account, then I click on Set to create the account. Note, for this demonstration I have used a 3-character password. As already mentioned, you should consult and adhere to your company policy regarding password complexity and other security settings. You can see that the new user account for Sam has been created. We don't need to do anything extra to this account. I'll create another account and we'll use these user accounts to access cases later in this video. Let's now create some roles for our new users. Let's assume that one user is a case administrator. The case administrator may have permissions to work with already created cases. For example, they can share cases, assign users to cases, assign permissions to roles, create and edit coding layouts, create review batches, etc. In this case, the case administrator can do almost everything in Connect. We need to create a role that has appropriate permissions for the user to conduct these tasks. In the Roles and Permissions tab, I click on the Add button under Roles. This opens a dialog where I can type in a name for a role. In this case, I'll use Case Admin for the role name. Once the role has been created, we need to add the appropriate permissions for that role. Click on the role to select it, then click on the Grant New button under Permissions. From the drop-down, select a permission from the list for the role, then click on OK. Repeat this process to add all of the permissions for that specific role. In regards to the second role, we'll create a restrictive reviewer role. For example, you may have a case where specific reviewers are allowed to review and code documents, but they cannot run searches or see files that are not assigned to them in batches. In this example, we will restrict the permissions for this role. A user who has this role won't have access to the Search tab or other tabs, apart from the Review tab, which they'll be able to see in the browser and use. Note that a role for a restricted reviewers category will have very few permissions. Their tasks are simply to review and code document batches. Now that we have some users and roles set up for the review side, we'll look at the processing side of the Connect system. There are 2 items that we need to configure for creating or processing of cases using Connect and Node. The first item is adding a node system or several node systems to Connect. As mentioned earlier, the node system needs to be a physically separate system to the Connect system. This allows for uninterrupted sharing and review of cases on Connect while processing or indexing is taking place on the node systems at the same time. To add a node system in Connect, you first need to install IntelliNode on the node system. In this video, we saw how to install Connect either as a service or as an application. You can follow the same process to install Node. Once Node has been installed on the Node server, make sure that the Node software is running on that system. Back on the Connect system, click the Servers tab, then click the Node tab. Click on one of the unused nodes. This shows a dialog to be filled in. Enter a name for the node at the top. This can be anything that will distinguish the difference between other nodes. For example, you could use Node 1. Optionally, you can enter a description for the node. Enter the host name or IP address of the node server. Enter the port number that the node system will use. If HTTPS has been set up on the Connect system, then you can configure that here for the node. Once done, click on the Add Node button to commit the changes. You will now see the new node is available in Connect. The green colored banner indicates that there are no issues with the node. Connect shows some useful information about the node. In this example, we can see some hardware settings for the node system, such as the number of cores and memory on the node. Also, we can see which version of Node the system is running. The second item that we need to configure is the shared file system. As mentioned, this is where the administrator configures the shared folder locations which the Connect and Node systems use. We recommend that the shared folder locations are set up on the Node system. This is similar to what we recommend with our desktop products, where the case, source, and optimization drives are all local drives on the processing system. Having the shared folder locations local to the Node system will provide better performance, and it is the most efficient method for indexing cases. On the Node system, create a shared folder on each of the 3 drives used for processing. These are the case drive, the source or evidence drive, and the optimization drive. Make sure that the Connect system has write access to these shared folders via the UNC path. You can test access to these folders by typing the UNC path into the Windows search or run box on the Connect server. A window to the shared location will be shown if there are no issues. You can further test the write access to the shared folders by creating a new text file in each drive location from the Connect server. At this point, we'll also create a folder for the test case that we'll be creating. In this example, I've created a folder for the case with the name Demo Case. Note that the evidence which I want to index into this demo case has been copied to the shared evidence folder on the Node system. Once the shared folders have been configured on the Node server, from the Connect server, click the Servers tab, then click the Shared File System tab. Click on the Add Shared Folder button. This shows a dialog to be filled in. Enter a name for the shared location. For example, Cases on Node 1. Optionally, enter a description for the folder location. Enter the full UNC path for the shared folder. Lastly, select the type of location that you are configuring. In this case, I'll select Case Location. Once done, click on the Add button to commit the changes. You will now see the new entry in the list. Make sure the status message of the new entry is green and shows as available. If there are any issues, the status message will be orange and it will be shown as inaccessible. Issues are usually due to a mistyped UNC path or a lack of permissions to the UNC location. Any issues will need to be resolved before you continue. Using the same process, configure the shared folders for the evidence and the optimization locations. If you have more than one node system, create separate shared folders for each node system. For example, the Cases folder for the second node system may be named Cases on Node 2. It is important that each node system is able to process cases and data local to that system. Shared folders can be created on remote systems such as network storage. However, performance and other issues can arise when indexing to and from a network location. This issue is seen a lot in support, and we strongly advise against configuring shared folders on remote systems. We now have the Connect system set up in a basic configuration. Connect can be set up with advanced features such as SSL and LDAP. Note that the setup of SSL and LDAP is not included in this video, but you can get more information regarding these services and configurations from the administrator's manual. We are now ready to create a case and index some evidence into that case. In the Cases tab, click on the Create Case button. Enter a name for your case. You can optionally enter a description for the case. Click in the Case Folder field. This will allow you to navigate to the folder location where you want to create your case. For this example, I'll browse to the case folder which I created earlier. If available, a case template can be used for this case by selecting it from the list. The next step is to add the location for the optimization folder. This option is in the Advanced settings. Again, click on the Optimization folder field, navigate to the folder location where we set up the optimization folder and select it. Click on the Create button to accept the settings. If you are not using an optimization folder, just leave the optimization folder field blank and click the Create button to accept the settings. The case is now created, however it is empty as we have not added any data to it yet. Click on the plus icon under Sources to add an evidence source into the case. The Add Source wizard will be shown. This has the same options that we see in IntelliDesktop, although this is shown in a web browser, so the layout will look a bit different. Select the source type that you want to add. In this example, I'll select File or Folder. Navigate to where the evidence is stored. Note that this should be located on the same node system where the case was created and where we set the location for the optimization folder. In this example, I earlier copied over the evidence that I want to index into this case. Name the source which you are adding. Also set the time zone if required. The item screen provides a selectable list of items that can be indexed. The default selections are the most commonly used settings. Selecting Index Windows Registry and Extract Text Fragments will increase the processing time. These settings are not commonly used and therefore they are disabled by default. More information on these settings can be found in the user manual. Note that the registry artifacts that are shown in the Insight tab will be extracted even if the settings for Index Windows Registry is not checked during indexing. These are commonly used artifacts, so they are extracted automatically. In the Options window, the user can set the Cache Original Evidence Files setting. This setting adds the evidence files into the case file. Note that this will take a little bit more time to process and the case file will be a lot larger. The benefit of this is that you don't need to worry about the evidence files when exporting data or moving cases to another computer system. This is because the evidence is included with the case files when this option is selected. The Analyze Paragraph settings allows for MD5 hashing at paragraph level. This facilitates searchings for copies of that paragraph and other items and allows the user to hide paragraphs from view when they have been seen or read. Note that the Analyze Paragraph setting is required for running email threading tasks. This is the Indexing Tasks window. This allows the user to set post-processing tasks. It also allows the user to set the custodian for the evidence which is being added to the case. Post-processing tasks are useful for when you want to add automation to the indexing process. An example is setting up tasks to run keyword searching, tagging, and date range filters. These and other facet filtering tasks can be set up to run directly after the indexing process is complete. Lastly, if you have more sources to add to the case, do not select the Index the Source Now option. Click on the Finish button, then run through the wizard again to add the additional sources. If this is the only source to be added, select the option to Index this source now. Select the same node which you used to set the case, evidence, and optimization folders for this indexing task, then click on the Finish button. The processing of the source will be shown on the screen. When the processing is complete, click on the Close Case button to finalize the indexing process. Connect will show a list of cases that are available. In this list, you'll see the case with the data that we just indexed. Once the case has been created and the source has been added to the case, you will need to grant reviewer access to the case. This is done by adding users to the roles for the case. Click on the newly indexed case in the list on the left, then click the Authorizations button. Start typing the name of the user in the field for the appropriate roles. For example, if you have a user who will manage cases, you may want to add them to the case admin role, which we created earlier. This role contains the privileges to successfully administer cases such as sharing cases, creating review batches, assigning batches, etc. You may also have some users who must have restricted access to data in the case. For example, they may only be allowed to view documents which have been specifically assigned to them for review. In this case, you may want to add those users to the Restricted Reviewer role, which we created earlier. Note that the two roles and the two users which we created earlier are examples for this demonstration. Connect has a lot of flexibility to create and configure roles using a wide range of privileges to suit your business and investigation requirements. The final step is to share the case so that the assigned users can access the case for review purposes. This is done by simply clicking on the Share button. When the case is being shared, the Share button changes to red and displays the word Unshare. Also, the case URL changes to blue and becomes a hyperlink to the shared case. The URL link and the user credentials can then be passed on to the user so that they can log in and access the shared case. Now that we have configured Connect and we have a case indexed and shared, we'll have a look at the reviewer interface. The user can log onto the shared case by using the URL link and the login credentials which they receive from the case admin. Once logged in, the user is shown their reviewer dashboard for the case. The dashboard contains several pieces of information related to the work completed in the case. There is an overview of the data sources and a breakdown of the data types within the sources. There is information regarding tags and documents which have been previewed, redacted, and exported. Other information regarding the reviewers and which activities have occurred in the case is also available. Note that a newly indexed case would not show much information because nothing has occurred in the case. For the benefit of this video, in this case we have run some searches, tagged items, exported items, etc. So we have some of this information to show. When logged in, what the user sees on the screen and what they can do in the case is dependent on the permissions of that role which they are assigned to. In this case, the logged on user can see all of the tabs. This is because the role for this user has the permissions to show these tabs. In contrast, the restricted reviewer role only allows the review tab to be seen. A user who is running an investigation will likely spend most of their time in the Search tab. This screen resembles the layout of IntelliDesktop, where the user can use the same functionality to conduct their searching, filtering, and review tasks. Items can also be tagged and/or exported by highlighting items in the Details table, then using the right-click menu. In the most part, the Search tab has the same functionality as what we see in IntelliDesktop. That said, Connect does have some functionality that IntelliDesktop does not have. For example, in the Search tab, a user can create document batches which can then be assigned to other reviewers for review and coding purposes. Before we look at creating batches, we'll go through the steps of creating a coding layout. Coding layouts are used for document review. They allow the user to subjectively code documents based on a predefined set of parameters. When a batch is created, the user can select which coding layout to use for that particular batch. The elements or decisions for coding layouts are built from tags. Therefore, we first need to create the tags that you want to code documents to. For example, you may want the user to code whether the document is privileged or not, or you may need coding decisions for document relevance and/or specific issues that the document relates to. To create the tags required for the coding layout, right-click on an item in the Details table and select Add Tags. We won't actually tag this item, but we'll use it so we can create the tags that we need. Enter a name for the tag in the Tag Name field. In this example, I'll use 01 Privileged. Once done, click on the Add Tags button to create the tag. We will use this tag as the parent tag for child tags which we'll create for the yes and no decisions. In the same form, enter yes for the tag name. This time use the parent tag drop-down option and select the 01 privileged tag. Click the Add Tags button to create the child tag. Do the same process to add the child tag for the no decision. Once done, click the Cancel button on the Assign Tags window to close it. In the Tags facet, you should now see a parent tag along with two child tags which will be used for the coding decisions. To save time, off screen I have also added parent tags and child tags for the relevant and issues categories. Note that the tags I have created for this video are examples of how tags for coding layout elements can be created. Your requirements for coding layout elements may be different from mine, but the tagging facet is flexible enough to allow for any combination of tags to be created. Once the tags have been created, we need to create the coding layout. Click on the preference icon just under the username, then click on the Coding Layout tab. Click on the Add button and type a name for your coding layout. Note that coding layouts can be marked as global by turning this option on. This allows coding layouts to be shared and imported into any case. Now use the Layout Builder to add elements or fields to your coding layout. First, we'll use the Add button to add the parent tag, which we named 01 Privileged. Because this coding decision warrants a yes or no answer, we will assign the radio button control to this element. The radio button only allows one answer to be selected. Typically, every document will be subject to this coding decision regarding privilege status. In this case, you can force the user to make a coding decision by checking the required option. With this option enabled, the user will not be able to advance to the next document until coding has been applied to the document being reviewed. Note that Connect also has a permission that will override this coding requirement, so there is plenty of flexibility for different situations. Let's add another element for the relevance tag. Again, we would use the radio buttons and the required option for this element. This is because it needs to be coded and there can be only one option selected. Lastly, add the element for the issues tag. In this case, the user can select more than one option. Set this element to use the checkbox type. You can see that the live preview shows you what the coding layout will look like. Click the OK button to save the coding layout. Now that we have created our coding layout, let's create some document batches. This is done by first creating a selection of items. The items are usually results from searches and other filtering tasks. In this example, we'll run some basic searches and we'll select the results. Highlight the items to be batched, then use the right-click menu and click on the Create Batches option. Enter a name for the batch and the number of items that you want in each batch. Batches of around 200 items are commonly used. In this example, we'll set this to 20. The document families will be kept together in the same batch if this option is selected. Note that keeping families together may cause batches to not have the exact specified number of items. Some batches may have more items than the number that was set. Select a coding layout to be used for these batches. In this example, we will use the coding layout that we created. Click on OK to create the batches. In the Review tab, we can see the batches which were created. By default, the batches are not assigned to any reviewers and the status will be shown as new. Being a case admin, I'll assign some of the batches to our reviewer who has the restricted reviewer role. I'll also assign some of the batches to me. Note that I have the case admin role so I can do these changes. Once batches have been assigned, they can be reviewed by the assigned users. Because batches have been assigned to me, I have the Start Review button under the Actions column for those batches. When this button is clicked, the user is shown the review interface. This view is broken into three parts. On the left, we see a list of the items in the batch for review. The center panel shows the document currently being reviewed. There are options to add search terms or keyword lists, which will highlight keywords in the document. We can also show the item in either the Contents, Preview, or Redacted views. The right-hand side shows the coding layout. Here we can see the three elements that we set up on the coding layout which was created. In this case, you can see that the privileged and relevant elements are bold, which means that they are required fields. Coding decisions are applied to the document by selecting the coding elements, then clicking the Apply button. The previous coding selections can be seen by hovering the mouse over the latest button. If you want to reuse these selections for the currently viewed document, you just need to click on the latest button. Once an item has been coded, a tick is shown alongside the document in the list on the left. Also notice that in this example, the Review Later option is available. This option is available because the Review Later permission is assigned to this role for this user. Now let's log out and log on as the user with the Restricted Reviewer role. Immediately we can see that the user does not have the Dashboard, Search or Export tabs. This user can only see the Review tab and can only access the batches which have been assigned to them. Again, the user starts to review a batch by clicking on the Start Review button. Notice that the Restricted Reviewer does not have the option to review the item later. The progress of batch review can be seen by clicking on the All Batches tab. This screen shows the status and progress of all batches in the case. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. More videos can be viewed at the link shown below.